Read a book about a billionaire. It's freaking bad. Honestly, I wish I never had. Guess I'm gonna review it now. I was bored, it's obscene. Honestly, still better than Fourth Wing. I'm not even sorry for doing that. It was good. My name is D. Welcome back to another episode of Book Reviews with a Regular Dude. Today we're going to be talking about Terms and Conditions by Lauren Asher. But before we get into all of that, I got to give a shout out to my Plus Ultra Don't Fretters, my top tier supporters on Patreon, Laughing Cat Dog and Luba Brock. Thank you so much for your support. You are helping to create this content and ensure that I'm able to put it out as frequently as possible. All right, let's get into it. So this is the second in the Dreamland Billionaire series. This is supposed to be a series of connected standalones, but honestly, they're not standalones. These books cannot stand alone. I'll probably get more into that in the spoilery section of this review. The series follows three brothers who, their grandfather is basically Walt Disney, and he passes away, and he leaves each one of them like a letter with an absurd task for them to complete in order to gain their inheritance. So each book in the series follows a brother, and the brothers are kind of conspiring with each other. They got a plan to take Grandpa's corporation and oust their dad as a CEO and run it together because Dad's a terrible person, and that'll be revenge. And yeah, it's pretty gripping stuff. I did a video on the first book, The Fine Print. I'm doing this book. I won't do the third unless this video does better than the last 4 that I've done. And if it does worse than the last 4 that I've done, I'm just quitting YouTube. And then we won't get to celebrate our 1-year anniversary. So I'm not going to lie. Normally, I would do like a spoilery section. I guess I should read the premise. I didn't even think to do that. I don't need to read the premise. I'm real sorry. It's like late at night again when I'm recording this. So I'm a little scattered because I've been up for a while. But 1 second. It is so hot in here. I am cooking. And then I had to go find a t-shirt because I didn't want to do the whole video shirtless. You want that kind of content, you got to subscribe to my Patreon. I'm just kidding. We don't have anything like that. It's all safe for work on Patreon, kind of. Yeah, no, it is. It is. I don't know why I said kind of. So yeah, this book follows the eldest brother, Declan. His task is he has to get married and have a child. And, you know, he's like a jackass and he can't relate to people. So his assistant hires somebody to be his wife and have his child or whatever, which, you know, I guess that's just something rich people can do. I guess marriage is always a contract. Well, there is a marriage. I don't want to get into it. But then the person who was going to be the wife bails at the last second, but it's like at their engagement party. So they're like, what are we going to do? And then the assistant it's like, oh, it's like it was me the whole time, like in a panic because she wants to help out Declan get his inheritance and kind of didn't think any of this through, obviously, because it was spur of the moment. So it's like a spur of the moment marriage of convenience, which I guess is a twist on the trope. I don't know. I don't know this trope well. And yeah, normally in my videos, I do like a spoiler-free section where I, break it down into these 4 different aspects, which is like character, plot, world building, and craft. But if I'm honest, there isn't really anything to say about the plot because it just isn't much of one. And there's like no world building because it's just supposed to be this world, but Walt Disney's name is Gary Kane? Citizen Kane? I don't remember. Who cares? Doesn't matter. His name isn't important. But let's talk about the characters real quick. Declan is the eldest of the Kane brothers. And much like Rowan from the first book, he sucks. He's just your typical edgy shadow boo, but with no shadow magic. And even though the author spends, I think, a little bit more time trying to characterize Declan more so than Iris, the secretary, the love interest, there isn't really a lot of complexity or nuance to his character. He's brooding, he's selfish, he's possessive, he's manipulative. And he's unapologetic, as in he will not apologize for things that he does that are terrible. This character is so unlikable that it almost took me out of the book. Like, I haven't disliked the character this much since June Hayward from Yellowface. Iris is the love interest. I had a really hard time with this character. I think that there's some interesting things about this character. She was held back a year because she has some learning difficulties. She has dyslexia. She's very insecure about that and wants to kind of prove her worth through her work and all that stuff. I think that there's an attempt to make this character complex and interesting. I wasn't interested, but I think if you're into this kind of a book, then you might be. I don't know. One thing that I did think was interesting about this character is 33% of the book is dedicated to making sure that you know and remember that this is a black woman. The author really wants you to know that. And while I was reading this book, I remembered that Zara from the fine print was also a woman of color. And I realized that I didn't know like anything about Lauren Asher, the author, so I Googled her. That's a white lady. Like calling the cops to complain about a cookout in the park white. I'm not saying there's anything wrong with being a white lady. Most of my subscribers are white ladies and you're all delightful. This opinion, and this like has less to do with this specific book and more to do with like a broader conversation, because I know there's this very like confusing discourse that cycles through the internet book space talking about white authors and BIPOC characters. What's appropriation, what's not. You know, we want diversity, but then you get mad when we write black characters and blah, 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 blah. And like, I don't want to make this video about that. I don't have the patience for it. I don't really want to start a comment war or anything like that. My personal stance on that is that I think that white authors should include BIPOC characters in their stories. And also, BIPOC stories are not theirs to tell. And then there's like the question of whether or not representation is good or is it harmful. And honestly, like, because like blackness is not a monolith. Different black people are going to have a different opinion on whether or not that representation is harmful or if it's good. And obviously, like, sometimes it'll just be more unanimously like, yeah, that's bad. And other times it'll probably be a little bit more of a discussion. Whatever, that's fine. I think that Terms and Conditions could have been an interesting or an example of like a black character but not a black story. And I would have been down with it if it weren't for like the really fucked up power dynamics in this romance. Like, Declan is Iris's boss, and he's a white male billionaire. Iris is like a working class woman. I think he's like 12 years older than her. This is a marriage of convenience. There's a contract and all that nonsense. He talks a lot about owning her at different points in the book. And I made some people mad saying that, like, I think certain kinks are weird. Guess what? They are. That's part of what makes them kinks. And I'm sorry that me thinking that a werewolf dick having a knot is weird. Bro, sorry. But yeah, the ownership kink is weird to me. But like, if you want to, you know, have your self-insert fantasy where you can change a rich guy, not enough to like make any like big changes in the world and make people's lives better or help the working class or nothing like that. Do something about climate change. Now fuck all that. Just enough change that he's nice to you and he makes all your wishes come true, take care of you and all that shit. Like, go ahead, enjoy. Bon appetit. The added layer that so far 2 out of 3 of the love interests in this series are women of color, and they talk about ownership, and they're being written into these situations by a white author. This feels like an act of racism. Like, obviously, I don't think it's intentional. I'm not saying that, like, I think this person has a white hood or anything like that. I'm just saying that, like, it's pretty wild and there's some layers to this shit, and some people might be like, it's not that deep. And just because you can't handle the deep end doesn't mean it doesn't go that deep. Okay, you afraid of drowning, and that's fine, but like, there's a deeper end to some of this stuff. But yeah, so yeah, I don't like the characters. And then let's talk about craft real quick. I don't know, it's okay. Like, there's sentences. So yeah, a little shorter, spoiler-free section, partly because like this is a sequel. Some of the world building, which again, there isn't really any, and how the plot works is kind of the same as the fine print. So I guess like if you haven't seen that video, definitely go check that out as well. But yeah, we'll get into it. And the thing that I was talking about before, where I said that these books are not actually standalones, is that these books can't really stand alone. Like, the fine print can. But then this one it does a lot of hand wavy explanations. Like they don't rehash the like the author doesn't go through the whole like grandpa left the inheritance, but first you gotta, complete this task, solve this riddle type of bullshit. Like that's not really explained, and the brothers and their dynamics aren't really examined really at all. So there's a lot that I think gets sort of implied. And I get that, like, if you're a fan of the series, then you don't necessarily want to rehash and do like previously in the Dreamland Billionaires books. It's almost like a semantics thing, and I'm getting hung up on the fact that these are not standalones. This is a series, but it just follows different characters. You know what I'm saying? Personally, I think a better example of interconnected standalones would be the Wayfarer series by Becky Chambers, because each one of these follows like a side character. So you could read these in any order. I think I've mentioned this series before on this channel, but it's a really good sci-fi series. A lot of like really interesting sort of like examinations of humanity through the lens of alien species, and Becky Chambers just writes some really cool alien species, and there's some interesting conversations around like gender, sexuality, and relationships and stuff like that. And yeah, Becky Chambers is a badass and a great author, so definitely check her out. And you know what? Fuck it. I also really like the Monk and the Robot books. These are like just a warm hug of a book. Really great novellas. Check them out as well. So these are the notes that I took while I was reading. Chapter 1, Iris plans a party for the eldest Kane brothers' engagement for an arranged marriage. She's talking to Cal, the middle brother. I'm pretty sure Declan's dick is chafed from jacking off every night. Just really nuanced and deep dialogue. The fiance quit and didn't show up, so in order to save face, Iris is like, lol, we're getting married instead, fool. I'm already like, what is... And then my note is, I'm already like, what is happening? I wonder if a proper explanation for Iris's behavior will happen. Guess what? Doesn't really. Like, this is just like, I gotta help my friend. And that's kind of all she needed to agree to marry someone and have his child. Chapter 2, this is Declan's perspective, and he's like, why? But also the author really, really drives home the fact that Iris is black. Chapters 3 to 4, Declan's dad is the supervillain. They're all kind of supervillain coded, but because there's no superpowers or magic or any nonsense, it makes it really nonsensical. You know what I'm saying? Like, I think like superheroes and shit like that, they're all really corny, but because that's the genre, it gets a pass. You know what I'm saying? Like if there was a dude who actually talked like how Magneto talks or something, that dude would get beat up. But because Magneto's a character in this genre, it works. When you take those behaviors and put them outside of the genre, it's weird. So anyways, Declan's dad accuses Iris of being a fake bride and offers to pay her double whatever it is that Declan is paying her. She catches Seth, the dad, in a lie, and then he kind of walks away, and then she and Declan start planning, and she visits her mother and her nana, and I was like, we get it. She's black, and I wrote here, problematic black love stereotypes. Almost every black character written by white authors doesn't have a dad, or the dad's a piece of shit. And I'm just saying, like, I understand that there are systemic reasons why this shit happens, and that is a lot of people's lived experience. Same, honestly. Like, I don't know, like I don't know my biological father, but I would just love to see like a book where the black main character has both parents. No deadbeat dad, no dead mom, just good old, just family. You know what I'm saying? Chapter 5, Declan prepares a contract for Iris, and it's misogyny bullshit, and he monologues about how evil he is and blah, 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 blah. And Iris forces him to negotiate because, she's not going to take that shit. I think she calls him out on his misogyny in this scene. I don't quite remember the dialogue, but I think the word misogyny was brought up. Chapter 6, it's weird that she's buddies with the second brother. Anyways, they go cake tasting, and she realizes Declan is jealous of Cal and Iris's friendship. I'm sure that Cal will be a horrible character in the third book or whatever, But in this one, because he's like the funny brother, I was kind of like, I'm glad that you're fucking here because, like, like I don't like this character. I don't like any of them, but like at least there's one that's kind of funny. Chapter 7, Declan forces Iris to move into his house. Like basically just walks in like, by the way, you're moving in on the weekend. Cal threatens him because Iris is his best friend and they kissed once. But there's only one man that but there's only one man that Iris is destined to be with, and that's Declan. That's a quote from Declan. I mean, he doesn't say, and that's Declan. He says, me. But yeah, I'm paraphrasing a little bit. He's so brooding, and in a world where no one's family gets eaten by dragon riding zombies, it doesn't make sense to me. This guy's so broody and moody. He's giving like Sasuke Uchiha a run for his money. Chapter 8, Iris catches Declan watching Formula One, eating donuts and drinking mimosas. Hell yeah. That actually sounds like a really good time. Literally, any of my friends, if you're watching this, text me and we will figure this shit out. I just realized Janine's bringing me donuts tomorrow. Oh, I can make mimosas. Ah, that'd be hype. So Iris, gets up on the couch and kind of sits, and they eat donuts and snacks and drink mimosas. And it turns out Declan's mom loved mimosas, and Declan's grandpa introduced the whole family to Formula One. I don't know much about Formula One. Like, I think it's cool. A lot of my friends are car guys, and I used to listen to this podcast about Formula One and other motorsports. Later, Cal comes over, and she and Cal have this conversation about her quitting her position as Declan's assistant and getting a job in the HR department of the Kane Corporation, I guess. And then it's revealed that Iris is dyslexic and she's been trying to fix it her entire life. I don't know if that's internalized ableism, which I guess it is now I think about it. Like, I don't know. It's funny, like dyslexia doesn't come up much in conversations that I have. So I don't really know much about it. But yeah, maybe that's internalized ableism. I don't know. It's like a lot of characters have it, and I think that makes them human. But it's also like, I don't know. I don't love it. That was a big problem I had with like Fourth Wing. Chapter 9, they go to dinner at Iris's mom's house, and her mom and her grandmother make this very spicy chicken, which is like a way of hazing new men, which is like simultaneously I'm like, oh, that's kind of fucked up, but also like that's funny. And I don't know. I don't think I would appreciate being tested like that, but at the same time, it's kind of funny. I think it'd be cute in like a better book. Chapter 10, they have an official engagement party, so it's not just like this announcement party. It's like an official, we're engaged, give a shit, baby. It's pretty awkward, and Declan gets upset about something. I don't remember what, but he's always upset, so it's not really hard to do. So they sneak off, and they're like trying to have this conversation in like a janitor's closet type of room, storeroom, something. And they almost get caught conspiring with each other, so they do a fake out, make out. Chapters 11 to 13, wedding boring. That's what I wrote down. So I guess the wedding was boring. They kiss, and it's awkward because they both like it. And Rowan and Zarin are there, and Declan is still mad from the first book, and Declan and Iris argue about how he's being a dick to Rowan and Zara, because Iris is happy for Rowan finding love and choosing not to be the CFO of Kane Corporation, but just, I guess, owning this theme park and living at it. Living at a theme park is either a really rich thing to do or you are very poor type of thing to do. Chapter 14, it's after the wedding. Iris can't get out of her dress without help, so she begrudgingly asks Declan for help. She knocks on his door because they have separate bedrooms, obviously. And he opens up, but he's in a towel. She talks about his sculpted body, and there's a lot of forearm talk. So, I don't know much about the author Lauren Asher, but I know that she's kind of got an ownership kink, and she's really into muscular forearms. And I remember asking, I forget if it was the fine print or Gothicon, but I remember asking people like, yo, like, what's up with these? Like, why? And I still don't really have an answer. I just probably don't have nice forearms, and that's fine. But yeah, it's interesting, you know? Like I think it's funny that I don't get it, but that so many people do get it and that it is a thing. Like I know that one is just a me thing of like, huh? And that's fine because there's so much we don't know about attraction. So like the fact that some people are into nice forearms and maybe even have different definitions of what a nice forearm is. Like maybe somebody's into these. I don't know. You think you're welcome, but yeah, I just think it's interesting because it's come up in not just this series, but a few other ones where I'm just like, what is? And I know that a few of my patrons and subscribers are ace, and they're like, I also don't get what this is. Anyway, so in chapters 15 to 16, Declan makes Iris plan a honeymoon to prove how in love they are, and he says like pick anywhere, and so she picks like, was it Nigeria? South Africa, so they can go on a safari and he'll be like clothed the entire time because she doesn't want to see him naked again because she liked that she saw him naked. And that can't happen. You can't find your husband attractive. What are you doing? That's crazy talk. So they take a PJ, which is a private jet, and the stewardess makes some innuendos like, I'm here to service you to Declan or whatever. And Iris plays the I'm his wife card and gets some champagne or whatever, and Declan's like, I like that. You get jealous or whatever. And I'm like, this is really strange. Uh, like, it's really strange. Like, in the fine print, Rowan pretends to be another person and has, like, these deep personal conversations with Zara and learns more about her and all this shit. And that's really fucked up and creepy. It was somehow less weird than like this I'm flirting with you, but I also want nothing to do with you type shit that Declan keeps doing. So once they're there, they're staying in like a bungalow or whatever, and Declan cancels their safari because he actually wants to keep working because work really matters. And Iris gets really upset about it because she's like, I need a fucking break, dog. Like, I need a day off, and what are you doing? And she's like, you always put your needs above mine and whatever. And Declan's like, what? Well, yeah, you know. In chapters 17 to 20, they do a video call with the Japanese executive because they want to build another dreamland in Tokyo. And then to say sorry, Declan takes the day off. They go on the safari. Then the next day, they get rained out, so they can't go on the safari. And Iris is like, cool, I'm going to just sit and watch TV until my brain explodes. I bet you're happy that you don't have to pretend to love me. You can just work. And then Declan like sits down and is like just watching TV. And again, kind of nice sounding. That's like, it's weird. Like, I don't like this book at all. But there's a couple of things where I'm just like, yeah, that sounds pretty good. I don't want to be like a my wife guy, like the dude from the Try Guys or whatever. But me and my wife are like, because I'm getting really busy like doing this and working and stuff like that, we've scheduled days where it's just me and her, the TV, the couch, you know, just nothing but snacks all day. And that's, you know, sometimes you just need that with somebody, you know, maybe it's a friend, maybe it's a partner, maybe it's a spouse, whatever. But I think you just need like a good nest day with someone. Maybe your cat. I don't know your life. Iris does like a weird monologue commenting on how much Declan eats. And like, thank goodness he works out. Otherwise, I don't know what would happen. I'm like, that's kind of fat phobic for like no reason. Like, it's just a weird offhanded comment that stuck out to me. Also, the idea of like the fact that he's just not being shitty is an act of kindness or is really sweet is kind of depressing to me. Chapters 21 to 23, the dad leaks the story that their marriage is fake. People attack Iris on social media, like sending her death threats, calling her all kinds of like really nasty words, whatever. And when they get back to Chicago, I guess they like see the dad at something, and Iris punches him in the face and breaks her finger. No, her wrist. She like fucks up her hand. I don't remember how. And then they go to the hospital, and Declan debates murdering his father. And I think Iris kind of like opens up. She has a fear of hospitals because of some of the abuse that her dad inflicted on her mom. And so then Declan debates murdering her dad as well. And then Declan goes to his dad and shows him a file folder of like, I have all the receipts of the abuse that you inflicted on me and my brothers and all this shit. And if you ever touch Iris again, I will expose this. because he has a PI on retainer, which I guess is how he was keeping tabs on Rowan in the first book. In chapters 24 and 25, they go on a fake date. Iris has figured out where one of the reporters who wrote the story about their marriage being fake is like having dinner, and has paid the waitress or the hostess or somebody $500 to get sat right next to her. And then they just kind of like, flirt and put on this really convincing show of being super into each other. And the reporter's like unsubtly eating that shit up. And then Declan suggests that they actually hook up, and Iris is like, no, that'll make things even more complicated. And I'm like, you're already married. Like, just, I don't know, do it. Why not? Iris, they kind of fight again, and then Iris walks out. And then Declan's driver, who's like Alfred for Bruce Wayne, but not nearly as cool. I hate Batman, though. Gives him some advice, and then when they get home, like, Iris just like goes to bed. Declan takes a shower, and he imagines fucking her, and he masturbates in the shower. And he talks about her clawing at him like a mindless animal. And again, there's some undertones here that it makes me really uncomfortable. Chapters 26 to 32, they go on a fake date to a gala and bump into Grandpa's lawyer. And there's sexual tension between them, and then they go on a fake date, but Declan won't say where it is, just that they're trying to impress somebody, and they take his late mother's car. Iris wants to know more about the mom, and Declan wants to know more about her personal life outside of work, and so he's like, let's make a deal or whatever, and Iris is like, oh, he's gonna say, give him a blowjob, and I was like, that's such a weird place for your mind to go. Like, I'll tell you about my childhood trauma and the fucking mom that I miss who died in exchange for sucking my dick. Like, what, dude? Like, I'm not gonna lie, maybe this says something about me. Maybe I'm just not like a manly man doing manly things, but I wouldn't want that deal. I feel like that would really ruin the experience, Like, I'm pretty sure I'd be thinking about my mom. So Declan actually wants Iris to confirm that she has dyslexia and talk about, like, her struggles, like, with school and shit. And then it turns out that this fake date's a real date. They go to the botanical gardens because Iris loves plants. Like, she's a plant lady through and through, which I respect. I appreciate that about a character being a plant lady. I would love to be more of a plant lady. Like, I only have a couple, but that's because I live underground and it sucks. If I had, guys, if the channel ever gets big and I can move to a place with windows, so many plants. It's gonna be crazy. It's gonna be like, don't fret, read books and care for plants. So then they go home and they hook up, they bang, and it's, again, this one wasn't nearly as weird, but it was still odd, where Declan's like carrying Iris up the stairs, and she's like, I can carry myself, like I can walk, and he's like, nah, you're a flight risk. And he makes this weird joke about like them having a kid and him putting like a tracker on the kid. I was like, that's fucked up. Why would you say that? Especially when you're about to get down. Like, what the fuck? And then in chapters 33 to 35, Declan gets upset when Iris sort of brushes off their connection, and he goes to Cal for advice. He realizes that he's in love with her and orchestrates a family get-together with Rowan and Zara to come through for F1 and donuts. Again, sounds like a good time. Literally, any of my friends, text me. Donuts, mimosas, some kind of sport. The Japanese exec pulls out of the deal that they were working on, and Iris is like, cool, I'll convince him, and they plan to go to Dreamland. In chapters 36 to 38, Declan and Iris hang out with Rowan and Zara, and the Japanese exec and the dad show up early, and the dad starts trying to steal the deal. Declan panics and calls Iris away from her day off that she's spending with Zara, because Zara's like, yo, I know everyone who like makes the gardens in Dreamland. We want to come check out the greenhouses and shit, because Zara's like just, a real sweetheart. I don't know if I said that in the fine print, but like Zara's like I think the whole like, I like the fact that my husband owns me shit at the end was really weird. But generally I was like, yeah, this is a fine character. This is a very likable kind of like star of a sitcom type beat. So she's just doing more of that energy, and it's cool. Chapters 39 to 43, Iris tries to smooth things over. Seth, the dad, tells Declan that he knew about this meeting because of Iris setting up an automatic email thing that told everyone that he was on a trip to Dreamland. And so Declan flips out at Iris for this mistake and calls her worthless and belittles her and like basically goes after all of her insecurities. So then Iris is like, all right, fuck this, goes back to Chicago and quits and stays with Cal because they're best friends. And I hate that I have to say this, I kind of like their friendship. Like so far, like Cal is the funny brother. He, I think, is a recovering addict or alcoholic, but he also seems to just really care about this friend. And I don't know. That's gotta count. I don't know. He's kind of, at least he's different. The Japanese executive and Declan have kind of like a private conversation for a second, and he reveals that he invited Seth, the dad, and Seth was just lying and fucking with him. And the Japanese exec wanted to figure out the family dynamics to test to see if whether or not he wanted to work with this family. So he played them, which I thought was kind of shitty and super strange that this guy cared so much. Also, real quick, why do white people write Japanese executives to be like these like super eccentric, quirky weirdos? Declan goes to talk to Iris and like she's in the hotel room. And then he goes to Rowan's place to see if she's hanging out there. And Zara tricks Rowan and Declan into having a conversation, and they patch things up. So they're all good. Rowan lets Declan know that Iris went back to Chicago, and then he figures out that she's staying at Cal's place. So then he goes to Cal's place, tries to bust in, and Cal's like, no, fuck you. Like, you're just like Dad. You ought to be ashamed of yourself. So Declan leaves. He comes back the next morning and brings a coffee and basically just like breaks into Cal's house, locks Cal out of the house, and is like, yo, like, come back. Home isn't home without you. I miss you. I love you and all this shit. Iris is like, nah, I need some time alone away from you. I need to think if what we had was ever real and all this stuff. And he's like, all right, fine. So he's leaving. He monologues like, I'll give her time as long as it's on my terms. And I'm like, this man learns nothing. This man grows not at all. And then chapter 44 to the end, Declan feels bad, so he gets a dog because earlier in the book, Iris joked about getting this big fluffy dog that would never leave her side. So he goes to like 14 different dog pounds looking for a dog that's fluffy and has separation issues. And he finds one that was about to be put down, not like right about to be put down, but it was on death row. And he's like, this is mine now. I'm taking him. And then he makes Cal kidnap Iris so that he can propose to her in the exact way that Iris lied to the wedding planner at the beginning of the book. And then they're married for real, and they have kids. And Iris quits her job as assistant and goes to school to get, I forget what kind of diploma it was. Doesn't really matter. That's the end of the book. It wasn't good. Personally, I think I gave it like 2.25 stars. You know, it wasn't like that painful to get through or anything like that, but it's not for me, you know what I mean? But, you know, again, it's like I used to compare a lot of these things to food. This is a very like frozen burrito of a book for me. Yeah, that's pretty much it. So thank you so much for watching this video, especially if you made it to the end. Please don't forget to like this video if you like it. Subscribe to the page and hit that notification bell. That all helps out the channel a ton, which I know that every YouTuber says, but it's true. If you want to help out the channel even more and gain access to exclusive content you won't find anywhere else, make sure you consider subscribing to my Patreon. There you get an extra rent review video from me once per month, as well as access to my private Discord server where you can chat with me. Bunch of really lovely people. They're the best. They're the nicest people that you'll ever find on the internet ever at all. Except for one of them. One of them's super mean. Special shout out to my super duper don't fretters Keisha, Cassie, Knightsmith, and Oliver. Thank you so much for your support. You are helping to create this content and ensure that I'm able to put it out as frequently as possible. Also, if Patreon's not really your thing, I do have a Ko-Fi page, so you could, give a little donation there. And if you want to give a donation specifically to Sunny, just put like for Sunny in the messages or whatever, and then I'll make sure that he gets that because he helps out with the channel a lot, and I wouldn't be able to do this without his help. So last thing, I still have that GoFundMe linked in the description below to help M and R secure some funding to start a new life in a safer situation. So if you have a couple bucks, that would mean a lot to me, and that would really help them a lot. So thank you so much for all of that, and thank you so much for watching this video. Y'all are the best. Have a great rest of your weekend or week or whatever, wherever you happen to be, whatever you happen to be doing. I appreciate you. Take it easy. Peace out.